Hi, we're Auction Conservation, and this is the Shoe Room Sessions.
The reason I do the Enfield stuff and that kind of public sector-y stuff is it's a lot of tedious bureaucracy, but I've got a civic mindset. I think going back to what did I want to do with my life almost post school, and you start thinking, what's my career, what's that journey look like? And doing land economy wasn't on my radar at all when I was sort of 17, 18. I was really into art and just wanted to go and do art. And personal circumstances meant the opportunity and kind of need to go with family to France came up to do almost anything I wanted, so long as it was possible in the part of France my parents were moving to. I was part of the family business in England for a few years before we went. So when I was 16, I got made a partner in a boatyard business. And that's...
Whereabouts did you grow up?
So South Staffs, in between Wolverhampton, Telford and Stafford. There's an aqueduct on the A5, and that's where around that part of the world, that's where I had with Dad and Mum, family house. So we sold that, but to a property developer in effect. It was 4 acres with moorings on the canal. Beautiful place, like an idyllic sort of setting. But from a family point of view, an absolute nightmare. My mum felt trapped. She had undiagnosed schizophrenia when I was a kid. So you just had this, we had about 5 or 6 years, maybe 7 years of just really tough times.
This is when you're still in England at this point?
Still in England.
How did that present on a sort of daily, weekly basis? What was that like as a child?
Well, when it first started, I was 11, so I didn't really know what was going on. I wasn't really aware of it. My dad was just saying, your mum's not well, and then I started to grow up a bit more and sort of realise what was normal and what wasn't, and she kind of progressed worse over that time, and she just became nonsensical, kind of, she'd chat about anything, and she'd also be up at all hours and do crazy stuff, absolutely bonkers, like amusing stuff, like moving the plates from cupboards to cupboards just because she felt like moving things around. So I've still to this day got this habit where I'll go in a kitchen and I'll open many cupboards to try and find whatever it is I'm looking for, even though my wife does not move plates around, and we've had them all in the same place for the last 5 years. It's taken me, I've probably only just now developed this, I know where things are, but it's taken a lot of training out of me. So she would do that. And
did that context switch, is that a 10-minute period, or would that go hours or days? Or
she could be up and down, it's really, and that was part of the problem. She could present herself very I don't know if you've ever met anyone with kind of schizophrenia, and you can be a very, at face value, quite normal person. You can be high functioning, but scratch a little bit deeper, spend more than an hour with them, or maybe sometimes more than 20 minutes, and it'll become very obvious something's not quite right. But it's very hard sometimes to really make it very obvious.
So, was she stay-at-home mum?
Yeah, so if I rewind a little bit, but the chapters of my life, if you like, 0 to 11 was, in my world, my own head, it was quite idyllic. None of this was on my radar, and there were some things around my mum's mental health that was always bubbling along. But the thing that was different for me was my sister has severe learning difficulties. So she has, it's quite hard to describe, but she's not cerebral palsy or things like that, but she was born mentally disabled with some physical disabilities as well.
Is she older or younger than you?
She's older, so she's 50, so just celebrates her 50th birthday, which was really cool. I'm 41. I had to think about that then. But yeah, so that was something I always grew up with, and she's epileptic as well, so that was unusual, but I didn't know any different. So you just that was normal, right? So I didn't know anything different. I knew I felt very lucky growing up. I went to a prep school down the road in the village I lived in. We were in what was quite a tranquil part of South Staffs, actually. It was really, really nice. We had 4 acres, canal frontage. My dad loved animals.
And were grandparents in the picture, or just the 4 of you in the family?
Until I was 4, my granddad and grandma on my dad's side they moved out of the house and lived in a mobile home in the garden.
So it had been their business pre your dad, was it?
It was with my dad, actually. I think that when they moved into it, it was kind of the family business thing. It went from him to me to so it kind of carried on with them, and they did different things before me. They're very working class, blue collar, but made some money doing entrepreneurial things.
And your mum's family in the picture?
Mum's family, yes, at that point they were different, probably better off in many respects. They built a tobacco wholesaling business in Willenhall, and this is probably my granddad died on my mum's side when I was 2, and my nan on my mum's side died when I was 11. So that's actually the trigger point, we realise now, for my mum's mental health decline. That was quite a traumatic thing for her, as it is for most people, I suppose, but particularly hit her.
Well, and the reality of, so I don't know if I've talked about this in the podcast, but my middle brother Aaron's got Down syndrome.
Yeah, okay.
So the pressure on parents of dealing with a child with learning differences and developmental stuff is...
Oh, it's immense. Yeah.
And it's not a one and done. So when you've got a small child, they might not sleep for a while, and it's really tough being a parent.
Yeah.
But when you've got a child with difficulties in terms of learning and cognition, you've got a toddler forever.
Yes,
it doesn't stop.
That's right.
So it's just build and build and build. Right. So, describing your sister's situation, there's 11 years of pressure at this point.
Yeah.
Well, no longer, because she was older.
She'd had mental breakdowns before.
Yeah.
Whatever we call it, and it'd be called something else nowadays, but that's what I was told when I was a kid. Probably after my granddad died, so when I was 2, and I was too young to actually notice that happened. But my father is an absolute legend. He will pick up the slack and he will do absolutely everything. So I think they coped.
Because he just carried a heavy weight.
They coped. He carried a heavy weight. He actually, my sister's my half sister, in truth. So my dad and she was born to a different husband. My mum got married before, divorced, and then my dad came along and fully adopted her with my mum. Then they had me.
Is he still around, your dad?
My dad, yeah. We'll come on to them later on down the track in terms of where they are now. But the interesting point is, where we started with this, is the civic mindset. And I think there was something around my upbringing with my sister and thinking about people generally and how you just have a responsibility. And it's quite grounding. You'll probably appreciate this with the Down syndrome connection, but when you've got abilities that other people don't have, and you see how happy someone can be, because actually my sister's natural demeanour is really, really happy. Like, to the point she put smiles on people's faces, and she got so little, and you think, how can I be like not making the most of my life when someone was so little, so happy?
What's her living situation? So
now she is with my dad. So last year, my mum, sadly, due to where she is in life, has got Alzheimer's, now in a care home, which has been a great result because they're both in Southwest France. So I migrated to Southwest France when I was 19. So that's when we ended our UK business and moved to France. They've been there for 20 plus years. So full-time. So my parents are basically full-time care for my sister. Now it's very much on my dad plus some outside help. That isn't going to work in the long run. That's got to change. No. That is worry, and I'm the only other child. So and the grandparents are gone, and no wider family connections and friendships are limited out there. They've got friends who are more sort of helpers with my sister.
So let's keep you still
yeah, go on, you shape it, because I could go off on a turn.
It's fascinating. So let's keep you back you're at the boatyard, it's before the sale comes through. Did your mum were there friends in the picture?
She alienated her friends really quickly. I think when you are like that, it's hard to describe, but in my mum's case, the schizophrenia also made her not a very pleasant person to be around. Even when you wouldn't necessarily think she's schizophrenic, she just wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
And I ended up having a really difficult relationship. I just didn't talk to my mum for a few years. I couldn't. She just didn't make any sense anyway. So my dad and I became best mates, and I grew to be a parent in that relationship. So my role with my sister was more like my mum, I guess, would have been. And you grow up pretty quick. And of course, we had a family business as well. Then my dad's actual work, because it was a family business that wasn't making a lot of money, but it was just an asset that produced an income. So a boatyard, we'd get moorings and things like that. The actual work he did up until about 11 he was an antiques dealer, which back in the 80s, early 80s, late in the 70s, was great.
I loved Lovejoy.
Yeah,
as a
yeah, yeah.
TV
So
show.
he knew some of the Lovejoy people.
I wanted to be Lovejoy.
He was Lovejoy. We had the Volvo. We had, I went to antiques fairs with him. We'd have the caravan. We'd turn up. He shipped containers of loads of antiques to America. He did it, like, I'd say pretty big for a while.
Did they, even when your mum was having a dark day,
Yeah.
was it an affectionate relationship between the two of them?
I didn't see. I think not. I think most of the time that my mom was not of sound mental health, she wanted to divorce my dad. That's true. So I think half the time they were not sleeping.
Like, I described my parents as unhappily married for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember them being happy.
Yeah.
The bit that's difficult to disentangle is how much of that was the influence and the pressure of having the challenges with Aaron and things. And also, the context is really important. There was no internet. There was no information. There was no context. There was no ability
you can't educate
to say
yourself. You rely on doctors. You rely on the experts, and the experts are not always in the
we
know.
were in Scunthorpe.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
the hotbed for information.
Yeah, it's not.
You know, so that, you look back and you go, did they do the best that they had the ability to do in the Yeah, I absolutely believe they did.
Yeah.
Was it good? No, it wasn't good at all. But it's so hard to look at that.
It's hard, and it's such a big responsibility. And
did that end up, other than your relationship with your dad, did that end up with you having a lonely childhood?
I mean, we lived in countryside, so it wasn't like I could just
geographically you're already distant.
Geographically, I had to be taken places and whatnot. I never felt lonely. I had friends. I was social. I had friends. But at times it's quite.
You can't invite people back to the house, right?
Well, I did actually, and I didn't have. We had to. Life goes on, and we had a.
And would she? I mean, wrong phrasing, but would she behave and perform in those situations?
No, I mean, my friends knew, so I was fairly open with them for a few years. I mean, by the time I was 13, 14, I was very cognizant of what was going on. Like, we talk about it openly with them.
Did you know it was unusual, or did you have a label for it at that point?
I didn't know what it was.
No.
Knew it was something. We pushed for the doctors. The truth is, the family GP in a tiny little village in South Staffordshire hadn't really got, and also she didn't present at the time when he would go and see her. Or
she's not going to be honest about it.
Yeah, she'd just be
or
like,
even if she wanted to.
In a 10-minute chat with the doctor, she could absolutely smash it.
Yeah.
So what it took was, and we were told, is she had to be a danger to herself or others. And it took that until I was 16. We basically had a call crisis care, and she got sectioned.
Was there a single occurrence?
There was just about a single occurrence where she threw a lamp out of nowhere, and I think it kind of was vaguely in either my father's or my direction. And we thought, that's enough. That come on, something's got to happen. And thank God, they took her in.
That must have been an incredible emotional process for your dad to work through.
Yeah. I mean, all of us. I mean, the relief actually of that moment. Like the next day, the relief was really strong. She went into a home and then she got helped and treated and medicated, and probably about a month later came out again.
In terms of that, did she go willingly when?
No. Oh, I mean, at that point when they turned up, because I think the police turn up as well, I just slightly go, I'll leave it in their hands. No, I've done what I talked to them. They asked me if I'm all right and what's going on, and I'll tell them and let them do what they do. She probably had to go, which was good. Yeah, and then the sad, you'll don't know, this is quite deep, but the sad thing was that was at Christmas, a couple of days before Christmas, I think. But it was the best Christmas for about 6 years. Absolutely brilliant. Just me, my dad, and my sister. And then the next 2 years after she came out fine.
How long was she away from the family?
I think around month, 6 weeks, something like that. It's hard to remember now.
Do you remember what you felt about the prospect of her coming back?
Anxious. But
was that the sort of thing you and your dad would talk about?
Yeah, so we'd go and visit, and by this point I'm basically an adult. I'm in 16, and I felt very much part of the family plan decision-making process, and being family business, I'd just made a partner in the family business for 16. I got my tax benefits from doing that as well, which was great. Instead of my dad giving me cash in hand, I then could.
Did you recognise that as a positive of the experience at that point? You're growing up fast and you've been an adult. At the time, did you like, oh wow, I am?
I did, yeah. I actually really liked it. I kind of liked being. I guess you kind of like to feel you have something that is purposeful, that you can control.
I don't think so. We talk about it a little bit now that one of the things I think I got out of having a pretty rough childhood was a heightened emotional intelligence for things and an ability to like feel the way people feel about stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll have the privilege of sitting here, and often someone will be talking, and I can genuinely sort of feel the emotions that they're feeling.
Yeah.
And that's because I used to have to read a room to that degree. But I don't think I recognised that until years afterwards, that was one of the benefits of having.
Oh, there's so many unintended benefits to situations like this, aren't there?
Yeah. What are some of the others that you've found?
Great question. I think maturity, that can have its downsides. You can kind of age quicker than you should when you're a kid.
And why is that a negative?
You can lose your sense of fun and kind of freedom, and you can feel obligation and
Do you
responsibility.
think you had a childhood?
Well, that's why I think the interesting chapter is 0 to 11.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I think 11 to 16, no. And then there are 2 years actually in between where you start to change. I was leading on here. The sad thing is, Mum came out, okay, fine. Then they reduced her meds and then went back in 2 years later, again at Christmas.
Just on the way past, 11 to 16 as a boy, it's pretty shit, mate. I wouldn't worry.
Yeah,
of all the bits to miss, it's the best one to
even
miss.
then it was pretty shit. I mean, the whole thing.
Testosterone's awful.
I didn't go to school
at all.
So 40%. I went to a grammar school. Well, I went to a boarding school for 9 months when I was 11. Hated it.
Did you want to go?
Yes.
To escape? Home?
No, sense of adventure, and I had the choice. I was given the choice, and I was lucky. I got a scholarship. My dad said you can choose where you want to go, and I had a mate who was going, and I thought this sounds like great fun. Yeah. I'll go. And then
why didn't it work out?
Well, it's Old Swinford.
Okay. Yeah.
And just culturally, like a shock, and I've been told to go lights out at 9 o'clock and sit in silence and do prep for an hour and a half. When I was used to, I don't know, being an adult almost that stage, I think, even. So I just thought, that's a bit dull. I hate it. I did miss home, and I did miss my parents. Even this was before my mum really deteriorated. I did miss that all.
Do you remember sort of facing and thinking about both sides of that equation? Because I can imagine it sounds like you both loved your mum and disliked her at the same time.
Yeah. I get after a few years though, you honestly just think I could really just do without her. If I'm being honest, that was where we got to. It's a really difficult situation. You just wish would end. And so it was a genuine relief when she got sectioned. The hope was that would be what would happen, and she would get better. And the happy story, I suppose, is that eventually we got there. And but the baggage of having lived at that house and been through all of that, plus my dad's antiques dealer market bottoming out, he became a sales manager for ceiling fans for a while. Crazy story all to that, based on a bet with a Texas oil millionaire that you'd never sell ceiling fans in the UK. He set up a ceiling fan business and sold ceiling fans in the UK. So he's that kind of guy. He just turned his hand to stuff.
What's your relationship with Christmas like now?
It's got better since I've got kids. Yeah, it's got better since I've got kids. That's wasn't great at home. Wasn't great just when pre-kids. It wasn't great.
And did it cast a shadow on each time it came round again? The emotions had come back.
Yeah, and it took years. So after second time around, we emigrated to France. There was a whole adjustment phase for both my mum and me and my dad, and just to get used to being with each other.
So let's talk about that journey. So did the offer on the boatyard come out of nowhere? It's something that had built towards?
No, so we knew we wanted to sell it for a couple of years, a year and a half maybe.
And was there an awareness it had development potential?
So not a little bit. So we ran the business. We thought, what can we do with this asset? And this is where the property bit comes in my background, I suppose. That's where it was triggered. And I just loved the idea of trying to make some money. And I was interested in art, so I combined the two skills. And I remember doing a sketch of a barn. We had a barn a bit like this actually, but in a more Staffordshire way. Less stone and more brick. And we thought, well, if we're going to sell this, should we try and get outline planning permission? Maybe we could convert buildings or something. So I remember doing a sketch and my dad taking it to the planning authority and they're going, yeah, I think we might give outlines. So we essentially did what I think I'd now call is a pre-app. And off the back of that, we then got a developer eventually come around and go, we'll have it. So I felt really encouraged by that. My dad did too. And it was also 2003. So it wasn't the height of the property market, but things were booming. So you could, if you were on the market long enough, it was going to sell eventually. Even if it was overpriced 3 months later, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So we felt like we'd done it, and it was real relief. Weight lifted off his shoulders, the whole thing. Financially we were in difficulty at that point, so I had to deal with bailiffs and stuff like that as a kid when I was younger as well. The whole journey my dad went on with work was not easy. Mum inherited money and spent it like no tomorrow. She'd just go out and buy 2 new cars. But then we didn't need cars, we needed money.
How would your dad react to that when she arrived home with those?
Oh, furious. Absolutely furious. And just like, oh my God, and also, the crazy thing, one of the other crazy things I remember doing is she filled the pond up with rubbish at one point. We had a nice front pond, and there was a canal frontage that could see it. So people would go past from time to time, walkers and whatnot. They'd be able to see your property. So just bin bags piled into this pond. And the council turned up and said, what are you doing? And my dad's like, honestly, like, I got the least of my worries, but yeah, I get you. And then other stuff went on, and I remember them serving notice on us and saying, you absolute carnage, what's going on here? You're in breach of planning. And I ran the defence with my dad. We went to court. I was probably 16 at this point, 15, 16, it was before she got sectioned. And I remember going to the library and saying, this can't be right. They can't prosecute somebody just in this position. It isn't right. And I just read up the law books with my dad and found the kind of, you can't prosecute someone who's mentally ill. And we ran that as a defence, and they settled outside of court. I had this barrister who went to Oxford, said, which college do you go to, son? I was like, New College down the road, Wellington. Oh, I only New College I know is in Oxford. I was like, oh. Right. And he's like, yeah, but well done. Shook our hand, and we were given time to sort it all out and resolve it. And they took a different approach. They recognised the difficulty. It took that to go to court. It's when bureaucracy just is absolutely, one-handed side of the state versus me, my dad, and my sister, and my mentally unwell mom. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, how's that a good use of anyone's money?
Yeah, it's not like we were doing anything on purpose.
So when the offer came in that you were happy to move on the boatyard, did you know it was going to be France? That was always the plan. Sell and move.
we had very much scoped out France for a bit.
Of course.
I don't know. It just seemed idyllic.
Had your dad got any links over there already?
No, it's really weird actually. We went on like 2 or 3 holidays, like busman's holidays almost, to just go and scope it out.
Do you ever ask him why he picked that and why that was there?
That's a good. I should probably ask him that.
I wonder if my literal armchair psychologist view of this, he will have rooted that with a point of happiness and wanting to be there in the face of everything he was dealing with.
Yeah, it was an escape. I think it was more logistically easy than anywhere else because it's the next door, country down the road. Didn't speak French though. We found out that
Worcestershire's pretty nice.
Slight problem.
Could have moved down.
I don't know. To be fair, there was a desire to go to somewhere warm, sunny, climate, and good food. There was just that. At this
point, was your mum coherent enough to be part of the discussions and conversations on where you were going?
Yeah. At this point, yeah. And I think, everyone bought into it. So I had the opportunity to either go to art uni. I just loved art at this point. Went to a sixth form college.
What type of art are we talking about? What did that present like?
Sculpture. Love sculpture. So I really wanted to go to do sculpture as a degree. Didn't, because the other love was this property point and this kind of environment point, and having had what we'd done at home, I thought, wouldn't it be great? And this is early 2000 again, so property booming. Yeah. I think, why don't I just go to France and maybe buy and do something up? So that's exactly what I did. Dad said, you've earned your stripes here. You've helped me. If you want a few quid to go and buy somewhere, as long as he doesn't have to do too much work, over to me, fill your boots. So in my mind, that was an absolute dream. The reality is a bit different when you get there, and you have to learn how to plaster and tile and fit kitchens, and French tradesmen are a whole other ball game.
Good when they turn up.
Yeah.
I love that phrase about contract. They're excellent when they're there.
Yeah. Brilliant when, and not scalable though. Like so many of the people we employ or try and get to help us were just like family businesses they'd rope in the wife and the son doing a boiler fit on a house, and you're like, why is this? And it's because the employment law is so difficult.
Yeah.
They couldn't hire anyone. But yeah, so I actually weirdly emigrated with. This is unusual. As a 19-year-old, I had a girlfriend for 5 years, which actually should be part of the story because she really helped me grow up. I think from 16 till 23, yeah, that kind of age we had been together, and saw that transition with my mom, helped me through all that, and then emigrated to France with me. She could have gone to university, super bright. She ended up did go to university in the end.
Why did that one not work out?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, you can imagine slightly. It sounds great on paper to go to the wilderness with your boyfriend at 19, but the reality is a bit different when you get there. It's full on work. I mean, it is. I mean, I was slightly interested in Archie's story here because the estate manager here, you get, it's great, brilliant opportunity, but I think everything has its time and place in life. Things change.
We talk about that about OC in general. Yeah. So I'm open about this place isn't for everyone to work here. What we expect from people, the type of culture, it's not for everyone, and then it's not for everyone who is here forever.
Yeah.
Like I try and view it a bit like an Olympic cycle. Yeah. Some people, like we're 4 years old as a company. There's some big chapters coming up. People might do one Olympic cycle. Like so few people go to an Olympics. How many people go to 2?
Yeah.
How many people go to 3? And it's like bang, bang, bang. It's going to be narrow. So, everyone's time will come in OC, including mine.
So the time came with a girlfriend. Basically, actually, that's another change point. Is I'd been in France for 3 years, 2 or 3 years, full time.
And your lifestyle at this point is you're just renovating property.
I'd renovated one family property, which they did the typical thing, buy a fixer-upper. Expats flooding to France at that point was huge, and we all bought the tumble-down stuff and spent forever doing them up. We had a
usually they don't get finished. Usually they're always
well,
on
that's
the
true.
go.
It's basically true. We did pretty much. By the time we finished, it's deteriorating. The other end's a bit like the Forth Bridge or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But the point of me saying that, I forget now, is the change management. The girlfriend, before we split up, said, "I've had enough. I think I want to go back to uni, go and do uni in England." At that point, I went, absolutely, I totally respect that. This is quite hard work. It is quite isolating. We're in the least densely populated part of Western Europe.
Whereabouts were you from?
The Pyrenees.
Okay.
And so you are like, right, okay, what should we do with our lives? I thought, if you want to go to uni and she's super bright, she wants to apply to Cambridge, I'll come back, meet the admissions tutor with you, support you. And I don't care what I do, I'll be a builder. Because I've learned all these trades, I'll be a builder. I'll just come back. And it was sitting in Magdalen College with the admissions tutor, and I saw the prospectus, and I was with her. We'd do everything together, and I sort of flicked it through, and I saw land economy. So they were having their chat about, I think, psychology. She wanted to do psychology, SPS, they call it in Cambridge. And he was like, "What about you, James?" I was like, "I'm just here, but that kind of looks cool. But I've got no way I can do that with my A levels." And we talked about. He said, "What A levels you got?" And I think this comes back to doing what you love, because I did love art. That was my escape actually during when my mum was ill. That sort of 16 to 19. That's what I threw myself into. I did really well at it. I also loved economics and business studies, and I did really well at business studies. I loved media studies, but cocked at my exams, so I got a C in that. So I got 2 A's and a C, and they said, "Oh, well, that's not bad given." And I explained the circumstances with my mum and family. Said, "You should apply. You should apply." I was like, "Really?" So I felt like at that point I sat there and I thought, a bit stunned. It wasn't on my radar at all.
Was that the first person who said you can achieve a load of stuff in the context of what you'd been through?
For academic, yeah. Like I knew I could do stuff with property, and I knew I could, but to go to Cambridge and whatnot, I thought, well, just the fact someone said apply. When I took that away with me, we flew back to France, because we flew there to do the admissions. We did a deferred entry thing because we needed to unwind France. So we were going to defer a year. And I thought, well, that gives me an opportunity to do, to apply with doing more A-levels. So I did A-levels by correspondence. I actually did the economics by course. I did business studies, art, and media studies at A-level at college. Then in France, I did economics and maths as a way to build up my application to uni. And that was great. Absolutely loved it.
And was it go to uni or was it go to Cambridge?
It was if I'm going to go to uni, if I'm being told to apply, I also felt at that point, because I had other prospects and I was so comfortable doing other things, I didn't need to. But if I wanted to, it was to go to a really good one, and to go to one where I felt I was going to, if my life was going to go on a different tangent, it needed to give me the best takeoff for that tangent. So you could fill in, I remember you could do 6 applications on your form. I did 3. I did Cambridge, UCL and Imperial, because I like the look of all their courses. They're also unique in what they're offering. Like, they're all kind of quasi land economy stuff. I thought, right, and if I don't get any of those, that's fine.
Rebuild it.
Yeah, or whatever, doesn't matter. So the interesting thing is the Cambridge timeframes is you have to put your application in earlier than everyone else. But before I even had my interview or got sort of any prospects that I might go there, the other 2 turned me down. So it was either Cambridge or nothing. So I went to the interview, and yeah, I remember flying back, because again, we're still in France.
What did they ask you at the interview?
All sorts of stuff.
Into the family stuff?
A bit. I think.
Had you spoke about that much publicly at this point?
Not really. A bit. To be fair, they wanted to hear about that because I think they factored that in. They factored in where they've started to become more progressive with, and the college I went to is Magdalen College, which historically was not a progressive college. It was the last college at Cambridge to become, well, there were all boy colleges, and it was the last one to go to a mixed college in the 80s. It had lots of old Etonian sort of link to it. So it was an unusual college to choose from that point of view. But the admissions tutor and the leadership there was of the mindset that we need to change the dial. And what they wanted was people who brought something else into the equation, but would throw themselves into it and have the potential to do something. And that, I think, just struck a chord with me. And I got
how old were you at that point?
So I was, well, how old was I? I think I was 21 when I applied and 22 when I went, or 20 when I applied. 21 and then 22 by the time I went.
And in real years, like in terms of like...
I felt like 30. But I still think, because I just came under the mature student category. So I was actually, that was another reason why I think my application was helped, as I was technically a mature student and they liked them. They also liked people who hadn't gone to prep school through and through, and I'd had a whole variety of places I've been, so fine. And I think the background with my mum meant, actually, you know what, this kid's a bit different. They asked me, why do you want to come? And being a property person, I'd read the brochure and the prospectus, and I noticed they're the longest river frontage out of all the Cambridge colleges. That's the answer I gave them. I said, you've got the longest river frontage, it says in your prospectus. That sounds nice to me. I grew up by the water. And they're like, right, okay.
Knowing what you know now, what was the real answer as to why you wanted to
go? The opportunity to really learn about land economy. It was that subject looked really cool.
Did you care that you wanted the badge and you wanted people to see and know you'd been to Cambridge?
I wanted to go to the best place I could get to. I've always been aspirational, and I'm unapologetic for that. And I think,
how on earth did you manage to be aspirational when you had a childhood that was largely horrific?
I think that's part of the reason why. Maybe, I don't know, if you had a tough childhood, that's partly a bit of that in you. And I think that tends to come through from people who've had hard times.
Well, I think in my experience, you either wallow in it and stay there, or decide
I'm going to do better.
Stay there.
I'm going to do better. Yeah. So I think that mentality was, let's try that. To be fair, up until 11, as a kid, I did really well at school. I did really well. So I knew there was something. I had a bit of confidence that I had a brain. I just never really thought post 11 that was for me. In fact, I didn't. As we were talking about, I didn't go to school. So I had loads of meetings with school about my absence. I just couldn't deal with it, and a lot of the time I didn't sleep because of Mum and all sorts of reasons. She wouldn't pick me up or take me. So I probably had an attendance around 60% during my GCSEs. And that's when I dropped out from the grammar, went to sixth form college, did art, and my attendance started to get better. Yeah.
So take us to Cambridge. What was that like what did your dad say when you told him you'd got in and you were going?
Oh, he told me never to. He said he was anti this stuff. My mum was like always pro go to university and study. My dad was like, I'll never work for the man. Do your own thing. Be your own person. You don't have to do that. He never wanted to study. He's quite dyslexic, and he found always education quite hard. So he left to set up a paper round when he was 16 and earned more money than his teachers by the time he was 17. So that was the kind of culture he put on me. But I think he understood that it was cool. He understood that was an opportunity.
And did you enjoy the time there?
First couple of years, not. I mean, yeah and no. It's just like a hot house. I mean, it's 8-week terms. It is full on. I was a fish out of water, age-wise, culturally, like background with academic. It was all over the show.
Did was the financial disparity between the haves and have-nots absolutely explicit?
The thing I've learnt about Cambridge, or I don't know if it's quite the same anymore, when I was there, the single biggest thing that stood out to me was the wealth. Most students were very comfortable, or at least comfortable, and the families must have had enough money to help them or to not have any financial difficulty. Not all, obviously. Magdalen, I think, lent more into the wealthier kids and kids from private schools a lot, but I didn't feel that was an issue because we'd made money selling the house. So actually, after we sold the house in the UK and we'd be on to France, we were comfortable. And then I eventually did the French house up and we sold that and I made some money. So I actually didn't have to pay. I put a lot of what I made out of that into my university education, and that was great. That was fab, and I didn't have to pay school fees either, which tuition fees either, because Cambridge was good with its bursaries. My parents didn't have an income because they'd retired, and because I deferred a year. I just missed it when the university fees went up, so I was really lucky with that timing. So I paid off my student loans a couple of years ago. I was like, yes, done.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So we're highlights from that time. What did you enjoy best about being at Cambridge? We've got a day of Cambridge people in. Molly was there as well.
Yeah, it's an epic place. It's a bubble.
I have such this is not a logical statement anyway.
Yeah.
I'm very jealous you went there.
Okay.
Like I wish I'd gone to Oxford or Cambridge.
Yeah.
Now I think I do. I maybe would have hated it.
Yeah.
Like Chris did not like being at Oxford.
Yeah.
So whereas because it's the best.
Yeah.
Because you want to go.
Yeah.
To
that was the single, but also there were some amazing. I remember walking across first court or second court in week 2, and the guy who had first cloned a creature was like
Molly, Dolly the sheep.
Or it was a frog at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's him. And then like you go to a pub and it's where Crick and Watson, discovered DNA, and you go to a hall and Stephen Hawking's there. It's like wow. Like where's this happen?
Did you have pinch when you think about the journey you'd been on at that point? Did you have like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, loads. But also you took confidence from it, and you thought, this is just a chapter. I know it would be a chapter. I didn't know what, but it was hard. It was definitely hard. As I say, the first 2 years, maybe like Chris, I'm not sure I loved it. I found it. I couldn't sleep either. They emptied the bins at 5 o'clock in the morning. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and I just got to this point where we were in France and it was silent, and my mum was fine. And I go to there and it's and the noise. I remember that, being so annoyed by that.
Did you meet anyone there? So I remember hearing it's when people talk about Alan Turing as a person, they say when you meet lots of clever people, right? And you go, wow, they're clever. If you meet an actual genius, someone who is that level of intellect more, they think in a way that you just cannot comprehend.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met one.
Yeah.
During that, did you meet anyone that you were like, oh, I cannot even be? My wife has. My wife taught with a guy who went to uni at 14 to do maths, graduated at 16, went to the US to design roller coasters, and came back in his 30s and was a maths teacher. Right. But she's like, he just views the world completely different.
It's the math maze. I can't. The only ones I can think of, they were super. I mean, some of the people I've lived with and met, I mean, they've gone on to do amazing things. I remember founding a kitchen club with some people who won the Turner Prize. It's like, that's nuts, right? And a guy, guys, we were talking about somebody earlier, we've just, a client of ours who is now one of their lead lawyers, and, you just think these people are amazing, but they aren't, I could comprehend them. I could we could have fun together, we could play together, we could work together. But then occasionally you get this math mate, and you'd be like, I don't know where to start with you. Just this, and he's probably inventing algorithms for hedge fund managers and making billions, but you'd never know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So as you came to the end of that time there, did you know what you wanted the next chapter to be? Did you have a plan at this point?
I knew I wanted to do property. By the time I'd done that, I thought
was the degree land economy?
It's law, property, and economics with a little bit of environment and international environmental law thrown into it. It was very light on rural. There wasn't really much of that. It was very academic. So I liked that because I didn't feel like I was narrowing my box, but I didn't know where it was going to lead. 2009, though, when you see where that's going.
Well, it's
pretty
exactly
crap
the same
place
time
for a job in property.
My PhD finished the exact same time.
Yeah, it's a pretty crap place to go and get a job. And I met my wife in my final year. So my first 2 years I got T2 off the back of a bet with a friend that I could go during term time without drinking, messing about with girls, or having sugar in my drinks. I would then do well and do better. I managed to do the first one, so I managed to not drink, but I did have sugar and I did meet my wife. That was a good thing. I got first in my final year, so it was a year that counted. So I was like, result.
So you only assessed on the third year?
Only there, yeah. So my actual mark was first 2-2 the first 2 years.
I mean, I essentially did the same thing. Yeah. So I went like 50, 60, 80% average, and it just dragged it up. Mine was realising that if I went to lectures, I could just play back verbatim what they told me, which I didn't click until year 3. Yeah. So I always have this conversation with Chris because he just nailed every exam his entire life, and he assumes I did as well. And I'm like, no. Late developer in terms of that. We haven't really dove into the reasons why, but I'll figure that out one day. But yeah, it was only that final year that really put. And they gave me an award for the most improved. I was like, this feels really disingenuous. I didn't improve. I was just really lazy to begin with. Then worked really hard. Yeah.
I think I knew in the back of my head it wasn't the first 2 years, but I think the adjustment phase, I genuinely needed 2 years to just work out how to write an essay properly. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I was.
How did you meet your wife?
Final year on a we did what we call swaps. You're gonna chuckle at this. So you go from one college. If I had friends, so the way it's set up, the people who would do land economy normally would be made up from 20 different colleges. So you'd have 1 or 2 from each college, and they would be your contemporaries, and they'd be the people you saw most of the time. But you also lived in the college, which were with other people who did other degrees. So you'd have your college friends. And then you'd have your course friends. Your course friends or your college friends occasionally would intertwine. And then occasionally, one way to do that, you'd basically say, come to my college, have a dinner, because there'd be a hall every so often, and I'll bring my college friends, and you can meet them. And the boys would come and the girls would come. So it was a bit like dating for Cambridge kids. But that was really, really nice. I remember meeting her, and we just connected, and my rule about not having any dealing with any girls in my final year went out the window by November, and that was great because she's brilliant.
How has she changed you?
Given me a more of a steady approach, which, because the risk is, I mean, you've heard the story, and maybe you'd identify with this a bit. Yeah, he can burn out. He can not do things that you do a lot of things you might regret. People say you might do things you don't regret, but I think you can regret stuff. And she just brings sanity to me.
What was her childhood like?
Oh, very different. Interesting. Her parents, I think there was not poverty, but they struggled for money for a bit, and then hit upon a business model. So they were entrepreneurs and set up a business just at the right time with the right way, and they made a lot of money very quickly. and so she very
That's not without its challenges.
not without its challenges. She went to private school, went to Exeter School just down the road. She lived in Devon, so they had a place near Exeter, and then basically the world was her oyster, to be honest. In many ways, she had she didn't get into Cambridge the first time around, which I wind her up about. It's great, and she could wait. She just went on. I'll apply again next year. Did that. Well, I'm so glad she did, because that's how we.
Otherwise, no chance you'd have met.
Exactly.
Otherwise, right?
Well, probably wouldn't have done.
No.
So very different and very stable, and no financial pressure.
And how much did she interact with your family? And were you nervous about her understanding and seeing your mum and fitting into that whole dynamic?
I think fortunately everything was on a much steadier keel by then. So we're talking 2026, 2006, 2008, 9. Yeah. And my mum had been in France for 5 years. Yeah, just over 5 years by that point. Pretty set up, pretty steady. Thank God the house was a bit more renovated than the first one. She probably would have, what are you lunatics doing? My parents lived in a caravan for 2 years whilst they did up the house.
The thing is, on the spectrum of like crazy things your parents did,
that was regular. That was normal. Yeah,
it's totally fine.
So that was fun. And she, it was in some ways, she lived in the countryside in Devon and a similar amount of land, a similar size house. Hers was a bit bigger than ours in France, but when we went to France, it was for her very normal.
Comfortable, fair.
Yeah.
So when you were both coming out of uni, what was the plan?
She did education and drama, and always wanted to be a teacher, which meant she had to do a PGCE. So that year, she was in the same stage of university as I was. She was always going to stay on at Cambridge for another year. So because of having met her, my preferred, and we went, when we got together, pretty quickly into love and commitment. And I think we realised we weren't going to move apart. So I went, right, you need to do here for a year. I'm going to find a job in Cambridge or around Cambridge. And that is what took me to Bidwells. So having looked at options for land economy and something vaguely to do with the environment, it took me into rural surveying, where in 2009, out of all of the sections of property, it was the one that was making the fewest redundancies. And actually, Bidwells were recruiting. So me and another person got recruited in that year. And I remember meeting the senior partner about 6 weeks later as a welcome. And he said, "You guys must be buddy, because we just got rid of a ton of people." But I have a few people to thank for that, who I'm still very grateful for, because who knows what I would have done otherwise. I needed money. I needed to do something. Yeah.
Nice. So bring us forward. Take us through the career steps from Bidwells.
So 5 years there. Started in the rural team and flirted with renewables for a bit. Found that you couldn't really do half and half, because it was taking off the renewables piece. You had to do it full time. Wasn't able to do that because the business had somebody leave in another office and they really needed help down there. So that actually took me into the home counties.
How people often equate the development of the natural capital sector to the renewable world.
Yeah.
How closely and how similar is it?
A bit. I think there's lessons in terms of policy and investor interest, and I think those two things are similar, but the asset's different. It is different. You're dealing with something that's much broader when it comes to nat cap. Yeah,
I see it. I see why people think there's echoes, but it's tangentially related. It's like it's rugby to cricket, not Test cricket to T20.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Shout out for the cricket fans that were looking for a reference.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the 5 years at Bidwell, what's your favourite achievement from that time? What were you most proud of those 5 years?
Oh, do you know?
Because when you say 5, if you think about those chapters of your life, mate.
Yeah, it was
like
tough.
That 5 years was at a totally different pace.
Oh yeah.
So the 11 to 16.
To the I found it really hard.
The time periods don't move at the same pace.
Yeah, don't move at the same pace. Also, reality sits. As a graduate rural surveyor, you're I mean, I could have earned more money plastering houses.
Did you almost?
I mean, at some point, you think, well, you don't know what's going to happen. You start on a salary and you think, oh yeah, you can just go quickly and do everything. The reality is you need to learn and experience, and there is a pace slightly to corporate life.
I was once made by a sort of mentor in public sector to draw a graph that was age against salary.
Yeah.
Have you ever done it?
No.
Do it at some point. It's interesting how you plot that through.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's when...
Yours will be problematic because at 16, yours will be like,
yeah, massively. And so I guess I just felt frustrated by having gone to what I think is the world's best uni. Oxford people will disagree, and Harvard people will too, but a great uni, done those things, I actually got a scholarship and came out on top, and then 2009 got a job, but I could barely afford to live.
So I first class degree, PhD, had to work stripping furnaces out at the steelworks in Scunthorpe to try and piece enough money together after PhD to drive my clapped out Corsa to go see my now wife who was at uni in Birmingham.
Yeah.
I remember coming back from the steelworks, so 12-hour shift, you're coughing up piles of crap because there was no PPE in those, like when they were doing that, crying because I'm like,
this is awful.
This is not how it's supposed to work. They're fucking lying to me. You're told you outperform people, you push, it's supposed to be easier. And I remember going to see Helen, and like all her cohort were all incredible, like the wealth was apparent. So she had loads of friends who, were getting multiple 10, 20, 30,000 pound checks for birthday presents. And I was like, how can I possibly ever catch up? It doesn't matter how hard you work, you cannot make that leap. I just subsequently realised I wasn't working hard enough or long enough.
I'm not convinced that things have changed massively post-COVID, culturally and how we do work, and in a business like mine and Bidwells, and that is good. That is really good, because actually when I started, it was still a culture of being in the office. People were working in silence, and I hated it. But I thought this is
presenteeism a massive
a lot, yeah. And I really struggled, and I think mentally I found it really tough.
I don't know if the same's true now, but literally in the public sector, you were taught you have to be seen to be in the proximity of the right people.
Yeah.
You had people who would literally be like, if the chief exec was walking down the corridor, get up from your desk and walk so that people see you. Like literally, you have to be seen to be around the person, which is just mad.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as bad as that. I think we were. I guess it was a business that was going through tough times at that point, and that wasn't great atmosphere. Full stop. So I hadn't really recognised that, and then just reconciling I had a career day job and no responsibility for turning up at 9 till whatever, or 8:30 till 7 o'clock sometimes. It was just like, and adjusting to that and a paycheck every month and things like that. That hadn't been something.
And were you and the wife living in Cambridge together at this point?
Yeah, so we actually for a brief period of time I rented a room with a colleague, and that was fine, but just my wife and I, why were we doing that? Because we just spend all our time together. So I ended up going halves on her room in Cambridge, and we did that till she finished, and then she got a job in. So then the next thing was, what's she going to do? I've got my job. What's she going to do? So she looked for jobs around and got a teaching job. Thankfully, teachers' jobs do come up.
Yeah,
and especially for people who've been to Cambridge, they stand out. So she got her job, and we moved into Hertfordshire, which is where we've been since, but we've moved a few times in Hertfordshire. And the Hertfordshire move for me, I went from the Cambridge office to, they had an office in Kings Langley at that point, so just north of Watford. And that for me was really fascinating, because you changed, the type of work I did changed from kind of being institutional, more about agriculture, to on the fringes of the M25 for corporates that own land that want to do something else with it, whether it be building or public sector or whatever. There'd be some other objectives. So it was way more dynamic and interesting to see how you would take land up the value chain, one way or another. And that that in terms of achievement, I did enjoy working for that type of client. I found that motivating, and that would be what I'd say was my biggest achievement. I managed a portfolio of, for a strategic landowner, had 10,000 acres of land that would properly become development land, and that felt purposeful. and then
What does
they can-
purposeful mean as a word?
like it's going to have an impact, and preferably a positive one. Like, you know, in a country that needed houses and still does, and infrastructure of all sorts, they were in a position to do that, and it felt like you were part of that cog. And I still feel like I want to be part of that cog.
So post Bidwells?
So Knight Frank. So we 2015. By this point, I had 2 children.
Was that always the plan? You both wanted kids?
We wanted lots of kids. I wanted 7. Wife settled on 3. To be fair, I have now.
Why did you want the big family?
It just felt fun. I don't know. It just felt a bit different.
Did you ever worry that as you got older, your mum's tendencies would present with you?
Yeah. You do wonder that. Yeah, and who knows, they might. They didn't with my mum until she was whatever age.
And what about your sister? Did you ever wonder whether there were traits that would pass into your children in terms of those sort of developmental things?
So I've researched this stuff, obviously. So yeah, so you wonder, and there are some hereditary traits with schizophrenia. So you start to think about those things. And
they would never answer the question with us about Down syndrome. So I remember us asking, am I any more at risk for having children with Down syndrome because...
And they wouldn't answer that question.
They didn't know. Yeah. And I think the problem is, what happens is usually when someone has a child that has a severe learning difficulty, they don't have another one. My family was different, that my middle brother is the one with it, but it's rare because usually it's such a demand on the family. You don't think, do you know, we'll have another kid as well.
Yeah, that is rare.
It's rare in the dynamic of how it presents. What I do remember is when we went in for the baby scan with Emma, because the nurses, they're doing these hundreds of these scans every day, and they measure the skin fold at the back of the neck to test a ratio for Down syndrome and a likelihood. And they were like, oh, no. And I was like, oh, what's the number, please? And she's like, looking at me, and I'm like, my middle brother has Down syndrome. And you can see her go, I understand. And then would talk me through it. But her read was, I must just be like a nervous parent or whatever, and that's why I was asking. So I always remember us thinking about that and really wondering if it was a factor.
Yeah, I think that's... So we've researched it, and on the schizophrenia side, there is a greater risk, but it's not like a sure... It's very, very far from a sure thing. It's a small extra risk factor.
With the Downs, it was Helen's age was far more of a factor than my family history.
So yeah, and with my sister, that was brain damage at birth. We're pretty certain, and conveniently the hospital lost the records. But we're pretty certain that was due to a lack of oxygen at birth. So actually, interestingly, when I had my children, my wife's first child had prolonged labour. It was awful. He was really, really lengthy labour, and I think at one point I decided enough was enough. I'm telling them, if he is not out of her within the next hour and he suffers some sort of mental difficulty or some sort of brain damage, they're getting sued. And then within 5 minutes, the alarms went off and C-section. Yeah, I'm so glad I said to the because nothing seems to be happening.
The following statement is not in any way to underestimate the fact that 99.9% of everything to do with childbirth is done by the mum.
Yeah.
It's not a fun process as a dad because I found Helen being pregnant really scary.
Yeah.
You can't control anything.
Yeah.
All you control is bringing her food, water, whatever she wants to eat or drink. And in the hospital, for someone whose job it is to manage things and manage risks so they don't go wrong, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You are just waiting and trying to support as best as you can. I didn't enjoy her being pregnant.
And you're putting your faith in people with their lives in their hands. Yeah. And in my experience, that hadn't gone so well.
Nope.
So in a few ways, so that was quite tedious. But yeah,
how did being a dad change you?
Ooh. I mean, there's nothing like your own children. I think like the sense of, like you described earlier, talking about yours, they are your clan, and that protection and kind of protective instinct, I think, kicked in. I hadn't really had that in the same way. And I think that was, and it wasn't my family in France is anything really much to do. Yeah, it was very much mine and my wife's journey. It was a thing for us. So,
of the of the three hats you wear, business person, father, husband,
Yeah.
which are you best at?
Business.
Then?
That's pretty tight second.
What would your wife say if you asked her the
This
three?
week, she probably.
That's a good answer. This week. That's an excellent answer.
This week, I'm definitely neither, because I've been out loads in the way. So this is why I've answered business. This you've asked this question. This point, I would have probably a year ago slightly gone the other way and probably put work last.
Why has that changed?
James Farrell will love this. My boss, I think my ability to get into natural capital and this kind of coming back to the things that I love from land economy and these principles and that real mental interest and passion in something has just mean I'm throwing myself into work more than ever before.
Yeah. Damn those inspirational leaders that let you be brilliant, right?
Yeah. It's
And you,
outrageous.
James.
It's outrageous. Yeah.
Mine is work, husband,
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
And I have asked my wife, and,
Yeah.
and she agrees.
Yeah.
The reason it works is her order is mum, wife,
Yeah.
retired.
Yeah. I think that's probably right, actually. That's Ellie's order. That would be Ellie's, probably mom, yeah, and then me, and then work last. Yeah.
I just don't think, and we talked about our mutual friend Andrew Hicks earlier.
Yeah.
And he
Love
speaks
Andrew.
about this wonderfully. So he had this high flying, like octane career doing. He wasn't doing deals that were ever smaller than £20 million, right? And he talks about how there's always someone making sacrifices. It's not always the person that people think it is.
Yeah.
And it's Helen's. I'll get emotional with this bit.
Yeah.
It's Helen's sacrifices that mean I can do this.
Yeah. So I think we've had that in our relationship. Ellie will know and agree with this. The Cambridge location choice was for her.
Yeah.
I think.
It's why we live in Worcestershire.
Yeah, and actually having a career, like not being very random and chasing everything at any time that's quite tangential to something was, I think, because I needed stability in life that worked with Ellie. So I think there's been some compromises there, but that has worked. The kids and my wife are so important to me. They are a bedrock of who I am and what I do, but they are not getting hours that my business
How old are
gets.
they now?
So 12, 10 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the best things you think you teach them?
I would like to think aspiration and adventure, because I think you don't get that from education enough.
And what are the bad traits they pick up from you? One of my things on this is try and be really, and I do not do this well.
Yeah.
Try and be really conscious of what you're role modeling, because you're either purposefully teaching something or you're teaching something anyway.
Yeah.
What are the things they might see? Mine is the lack of presenteeism.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Yeah. Well, they would say that this month. I get ribbed when I come back home. I did last night. I was back home at 7:00. They were like, "Oh, nice to see you." They meant it in a nice way, but
no, they didn't.
They're sort of
that's the thing about joke, right? Every joke is rooted in a thread of honesty.
Yeah. So that's the bit I don't think I do very well.
Do you when you guys do you plan together in terms of what your weeks look like and structures and things?
Yeah,
like
we
that?
do. And actually, I try and make up for it and I love doing it, and I'm really pleased to do it. I take one of my children on an adventure on their own once a year, and try and go away with them somewhere, and that has been really fun for the last few years to do.
So I early on in OC, I was very, very fortunate to sit down with some incredibly successful people. I'm talking about billionaires and their sectors, and so start talking about stuff, and I'll say, okay, what are your key things to family and thinking about that? And I've actually had opportunities to then speak to their kids as well, and go, what are the bits that mum or dad did that works really well? Yeah. And the ones I'd picked up is, so it used to be Saturdays, it's moved to Sunday now because the kids do hockey on a Saturday morning. I make pancakes every weekend for the hockey. What I love is I've had like 3 or 4 other sort of founders or people in the sector come on, have this conversation, and then at the weekend I've had photos where they've made pancakes for their kids. Yeah, so lovely. I love that. That's Shout out to Ed Dick for doing it as well. And then the iconic present family trip or holiday. Yeah. So because I don't think, if you think about your memories, and like mine, they're not all good, about being families. But you speak about a year or a 5-year period in a sentence, but the disproportionate impact of a really,
good positive experience. Yeah.
So what we've really focused to do is, so we plan ahead in terms of like family trips, and they don't have to be decadent or particularly adventurous, but that really focused family time at key points throughout a year. I think they're the bits that will stay hopefully with the family. And I suppose the good bits I try and role model is aspiration, and if you work your arse off, you can achieve whatever you want.
I think that's similar for me. I think that you've got to have the aspiration first, and then you've got to be bought into trying to achieve. So I'd had the kids' school reports last night. That's one thing I did take a bit of time with my 2 youngest.
Yeah.
They had their reports from school. It's so nice to see. They're both trying their hardest. That was the thing I cared about most. And I'm lucky that's having results. They are doing really well, but I think I care about people applying themselves. And if you can do that, you're going to find a way to be successful.
If how much have you guys talked about, if you're in the financial position to do it when they're older, how much help you intend to give them versus let them fly solo? Have you had those sort of conversations?
I've got a bit of a plan, which I'm not sure I've fully conversed with my wife on, but I think
you're about to get in trouble. This
I
is
probably
not
will.
making the cut.
Yeah.
You're about to get in trouble.
No, she'd be relaxed. She's not motivated by money at all.
Interesting.
Slightly that's her upbringing.
To the point of being actively disinterested.
Well, it's only now she is, because she's realised she's similar in Cambridge, fantastic, worked bloody hard at her job, really hard. She's super brilliant at it, but as a state sector school teacher, you can only go so far.
Yep.
She hates change, so there is something that's
there's
starting
echoes
to irritate her
in our respective wives. So Helen doesn't, as long as things are communicated about the plan, it's fine. The plan changes, I'm in the shit. Cannot change, even if it's for the better. We had an opportunity to take this other trip, and I was like, "Oh, should we do this?" It's not in the plan. I'm like, "Yeah, but you want to go, right?" Well, yeah, but it's not in the plan. I'm like, "Yeah, but isn't it better?" That took a while.
Ellie's immediate reaction to any change is no.
Correct.
But then, maybe 10 minutes later or an hour later or the next day, it's, can we just talk about maybe? And then maybe she'll come around to it. You always feel like you've dragged someone to something that they don't want to do. But that, on the other hand, means that I'm doing things when I ask for a change. It's got to be something that's intentional, worth it. Yeah.
So you've got a bit of a plan in terms of thinking about the kids' future?
Yeah, sorry, I haven't answered. Yeah, I think I'd like them to have it's about having opportunity. So I want my kids to have opportunity. I had opportunity somehow. I'm not entirely sure how, but I did. And I think the world has got... Actually, I think it's a lot harder to have kids and provide opportunity for children now in the same way that I did. It feels harder. And that probably is more around money. So I would love to have enough money to give them the opportunities I had. And that's about it. I don't want to set them up beyond that.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I don't think you give yourself anywhere near enough credit, because you literally walked through a childhood that would have ended most people's aspirations and hopes. And you walked through hell, fire, and just abject unpleasantness into fucking Cambridge, mate. Like, that's not...
Yeah, but I think there's a degree of luck. There's a degree of luck, but there is I think that's the tough times we talked about earlier. I think they actually created the person who can achieve things.
Yeah. Do you think without the childhood you'd have ended up there?
No, I probably would have been the cocky bastard who went to a very nice school if my parents had an all right... my mum hadn't brought 2 new cars and blown the money. I would have probably gone to a private school and been spoiled, and I probably would have ended up being complacent. And then I bet I wouldn't have got in, because I would have had if I'd had an admissions tutor sitting opposite me, they would have gone, yeah, we need someone with a bit more application and appreciate what the opportunity is. So I don't think that's right. Yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah.
What an absolute journey. And now you find yourself at the perfect place at the perfect time.
Yeah.
So we love everything Knight Frank. I adore James Farrell, a very good friend of mine, who's created such a unique culture in what is UK and an international institution in Knight Frank. Talk to us about the business and the culture and what it's like to be part of that team, and now especially.
Yeah, I think I've always been into partnerships. I think they always feel like, as a legal structure, top down, as a person within it, you're part of it a lot more. And I sense that in Knight Frank, and I also sense that I'm in control of more of my own destiny. So when my father said never work for the man, I think I don't. I feel like I'm working for me and my team, and my clients. It's not the man. It's not this faceless thing. So the culture's, it's about working together. And I think if we can achieve more together, which, there's only so far one person can go. And I have learnt this and now being part of an organisation. I had a pitch this week. I mean, my week's been, it landed on my desk on Monday. The deadline's Monday next week. I've been at Groundswell for 2 days, which has been fantastic, and here. And it's like, I would never have been able to achieve that pitch and do it if it wasn't for having a team around me. And that's for a game-changing thing that's in London that will change people's lives and environments. And that's what we want to do at Knight Frank. In the rural team, that's what we want to do.
Your civic calling, right?
Yeah, it's my civic calling. But it also feels like a privilege. Like you've got these skills, you've learned these things, you've got these amazing talented people around you, which you do here. It's amazing to put people to a task that is worth it.
It's why, so we had tons of approaches to sponsor the podcast and be associated with us, and none of them felt right until James reached out one day and said, we want to come and spend some time together and catch up. And it's the cultural alignment with you guys.
Yeah.
So different styles of businesses in different places in different ways. But like we had your team up at Invergeldy with us. Yeah. And it was the same. The value set, the principles, the environment, the impact, the adventure and togetherness, which is our key values. Yeah. They were just the same.
Yeah. There's no dickheads allowed. No. It's a phrase.
Yeah.
You can keep that in.
Yeah.
I think there are some amazing colleagues that I love going to meetings with, partly just to see how they are, and I think some of them are my friends. They are friends, and I think I really, really rate that.
In both respected businesses and the sector in general at the moment, it feels like such a special time to be in it.
Yeah.
So we had the brilliant Molly Bidwells on this morning from NEP and others, and we talked about how in 10 years' time, the sector's going to be like what happened with renewables. It's going to homogenise and standardise and things like that, and the creativity, the difference, the ideas. And they're not all good, and some of them won't work, and some will, and things. Yeah. But the energy and the momentum that's in the sector now won't be there in 10 years. Yeah. We'll have moved past it. So I feel so privileged to be doing what we're doing with who we are now.
Yeah. And I never quite know what my part of that is going to be. You've got a clearer mission with what you're doing. We've got a landowner-led client base, and they need leadership with what they're doing with it, and they need us to help them, help them with that journey. And if we knew all the answers, they'd have done it already. So I think the trick's about being nimble enough and working these things out as you go, and having some fun along the way. Hopefully those people that I'm working with and those organisations will say to you that James is a good guy and we like him and we have fun with him and we trust him. And if they do that, I'm happy.
That's what you want your clients to say about you. Yeah. If we had the children of the podcast in and your kids were sat there, what would you hope they'd say about you as a dad?
Firstly, that I love them. I think that would be the main thing. That's when I get emotional. I think that's what they know, because I think actually underneath the whole journey with my mom, love did win out. There was so much reason to despise her, and sort of hate, but you go full circle on these things, and the strength of love there is huge.
Love it. Your openness, honesty, and stuff in this podcast has just been inspiring. Thank you for sharing some of that. Is there one question I haven't asked you wish I had?
Not really, no.
Make you an absolute...
It's been therapy.
Well, I'm very glad. It's been a privilege for you to trust us with that story and that. And it's genuinely inspiring for the people out there that I hope some people who are earlier in their careers or lives and might be going through a tough spot hear yours because it'll inspire them to do the impossible because
Yeah.
you have. So
you never know what's around the next corner. You do need to look for it. You do need to hope for it and work for it, but life can change very quickly.
you're an incredible man, mate. Thank you for coming in.
Welcome. It's been a pleasure.